It is 9 at night outside Effingham, Illinois, and the truck stop off Interstate 57 has been full since before dark. Every marked space taken, trucks parked in the fuel lanes, one rig sitting sideways across the entrance with his four-way flashers going, because there was nowhere else to put 70 feet of steel. A driver rolls through that lot at 2 miles an hour, sees exactly what he expected to see, and pulls right back out onto the interstate. 20 minutes later, he shuts down on a gravel apron behind a closed farm equipment dealership. No lights, no cameras, and not another truck anywhere in sight. And he sleeps better there than he would have under those bright canopies. However, this is not stubbornness, and it is not some old-timer being difficult. Every driver doing it can tell you exactly what changed. Today we are counting down the 10 reasons millions of American drivers are refusing to sleep at truck stops in 2026. And number 1 is not the driver's decision at all. It is written down in a binder, it came from the insurance companies, and it has quietly turned the truck stop into a place where the freight itself is no longer allowed to sit. Understand what we are talking about first. For about 40 years, the truck stop was the closest thing a long-haul driver had to a hometown. You pulled into a Union 76 or a big independent at the end of a run, and there was a sit-down restaurant with a driver's section, a lounge with a television, and a couple of recliners. A mechanic on duty at 2 in the morning who could get you a belt or a hose, hot showers that came with the fuel purchase, and 100 other men who did exactly what you did for a living. The parking lot was almost a side detail. If you ran in those years, some of what follows is going to make you glad you got out when you did. Now let's be straight about one thing right at the start, because the comment section deserves it. Most American drivers will still pull into a truck stop tonight and sleep just fine, the way they have for 30 years. What we are describing is not everybody. It is a growing share of the most experienced men on the road, and every reason they give is documented. Some of it shows up in hard federal numbers. Some of it is just the way a lot feels at 2 in the morning. We will be honest about which is which. Let's get rolling. Number 10. There is simply no space, and everybody knows it by 3 in the afternoon. Start with the arithmetic, because everything else on this list sits on top of it. Federal estimates put the country at roughly 1 legal truck parking space for every 11 drivers. 1 space, 11 men who each need it tonight. A federal survey of nearly 12,000 drivers found 98% of them had trouble finding safe parking in their normal running area. That is not a complaint. That is nearly everybody. So the day now works backward. Drivers start hunting a spot around 3 in the afternoon, not because they are tired, but because the lots along Interstate 40 and Interstate 80 fill by 5, and the ramps fill by 7. Research from the industry's own study group found drivers give up about 56 minutes of driving time every single day, just chasing parking, which works out to something near a $5,600 pay cut every year. $5,600 a year to look for a place to sleep. But a full lot is only the beginning of it, because the drivers who do get a spot are the ones getting robbed. Number 9. They cut the seal while the driver is 20 feet away with the curtains shut. Cargo theft in this country hit records in 2025 and kept climbing into 2026, and the tracking firms all put the same locations at the top of the list. Truck stops, unsecured parking lots, rest areas. Any place where a loaded trailer sits still for 10 hours. The average value of a single cargo theft now runs north of $200,000, which tells you these are not kids looking for a television. Organized crews watch the lots. They walk the rows reading trailer numbers off the doors. They know which carriers haul electronics and which ones haul liquor, and they know that a man asleep in a bunk with an APU running cannot hear bolt cutters go through a seal 30 feet behind him. Sometimes they take the whole trailer. More often they open the doors, pull 12 pallets off the nose, close it back up, and the driver rolls out at 5 in the morning with no idea anything happened. He finds out 2 days later when the receiver counts it. And then the worst part starts. because the man who was asleep in that truck is the first person anybody looks at. He gets a phone call from the safety department. He gets asked where he parked and why he parked there by a 26-year-old in an office who has never backed a trailer in his life. That is the part drivers will not forgive. And when the crews are not after the freight, they come for the truck itself. Number 8. They are stripping the tractor in the parking lot. Talk to any driver who has been out a while, and he can list what has been taken off his truck in a lot he paid to park in. Diesel pulled out of the tanks overnight, $300 or better gone before he ever turns the key, and he does not find out until the gauge and the fuel receipts stop agreeing with each other. Some crews do not even siphon anymore. They put a drill through the tank, take what they want, and leave the rest running out across the asphalt. DEF gets stolen. Batteries get pulled out of the box on the frame rail, 4 or 6 of them, a few $100s a set. Catalytic converters come off in the dark in about 90 seconds with a battery saw. And on trailers, aluminum wheels come off, and the trailer gets set down on blocks, like a car in a bad neighborhood. Every one of those is a $1,000 morning at minimum, and none of it is covered the way people think it is. There is a deductible, there is downtime, and there is a driver sitting in a lot at 6 in the morning waiting on a road service truck instead of making his delivery appointment. Some of those thefts now happen in daylight, with 100 other trucks parked around. That is what changed. It used to take nerve, and in a lot of cases, the crew that hit the truck had already been following it before it ever pulled in. Number 7. The first 200 miles are the dangerous ones. Drivers figured this out well before the trade publications caught up with it. A large share of straight cargo thefts happen within the first 200 to 250 miles after pickup. Crews sit outside the distribution centers in the Inland Empire, outside the warehouses in Dallas and Fort Worth, outside the freight terminals around Memphis and Chicago, and they watch what rolls out of the gates. They pick a trailer, follow it at a comfortable distance, and wait for the driver to do the one thing they need him to do, which is stop. So drivers changed. A man who loads at 4 in the afternoon in Southern California will not shut down at the first truck stop up the hill, no matter how tired he is or how convenient the sign looks. He runs the load out of the zone first. He watches his mirrors on the ramp. He takes an exit he did not need just to see who follows him off. Old-timers used to do that in Miami and Newark and nowhere else. Now they do it everywhere, and the truck stop closest to the shipper is the exact one they skip. But surely somebody is watching those lots. That brings us to the next one. Number 6. The cameras are recording and nobody is watching them. Almost every major truck stop chain has cameras now. Signs about cameras at the entrance. Poles with domes on them over the back rows. And drivers have worked out something that criminology research backs up. Cameras that only record with nobody actually watching the feed show no meaningful effect on crime. Actively monitored systems, with a real person watching in real time who can call it in while it is happening, do cut crime measurably. Almost nothing in a highway truck stop lot is actively monitored. There is one clerk inside running a register and a fuel desk, and 200 trucks out back in the dark. When something happens, the driver is told to file a police report, and the officer who comes out writes a case number for an insurance claim that will not bring the freight back. Footage gets pulled sometimes. It is usually a grainy shape moving between 2 trailers at 3 in the morning. No plate, no face. So the veteran's calculation is simple. If nobody is guarding this lot, then the only guard my truck has is me, and I would rather be somewhere nobody thinks to look than somewhere everybody knows to look. Now, number 5, and this is the one that hurts the men who remember how it used to be. Number 5, the truck stop stopped being a truck stop. There was a time when you pulled in and there was a reason to stay. The restaurant had a driver's section, and a waitress who knew your name if you ran that lane regular, and she knew how you took your coffee before you sat down. There was a driver's lounge with real chairs and a television, and a bank of phone booths along the wall where men stood in line for 20 minutes to call home for 6. Some places had a barber, some had a laundry, a few had a chapel with a preacher who understood that a man might come in at 4 in the morning. There was a shop out back with a mechanic who would put down his coffee and come out at midnight because you had an air leak, and he would have you rolling by 2. The shower came with the fuel, and nobody made a production out of it. You bought 400 gallons, you got a towel and a key. And that lot was full of men who lived the same life you did. That is the part that nobody outside the trade ever understood. Somebody was always awake out there. Somebody had his hood up. Somebody was walking the rows at 3 in the morning because he could not sleep either. A stranger walking between the trailers got looked at by 6 people before he made it 2 rows in. The lot policed itself, and it did a better job of it than any camera ever has. Most of that is gone now. The sit-down restaurants closed in favor of a fast food counter that shuts down at 9. The lounges were pulled out and the floor space turned into another aisle of energy drinks and phone chargers. The shops closed or went appointment only, which is a phrase that means nothing to a man with an air leak at midnight. The phone bank came out when everybody got a cell phone, and nobody misses the phones exactly, but they miss what used to happen in that line. There is nowhere to sit down. There is a self-checkout kiosk where the cashier used to be, and it wants you to scan your own coffee. What is left is a fuel island, a convenience store, and a parking lot. Now, to be fair, a few of them still do it the old way. Iowa 80, out on Interstate 80 in Walcott, still has the sit-down restaurant, still has the barber, still has the chiropractor and the dentist and the movie theater. And drivers will go 2 hours out of route to shut down there. That place proves the model still works when somebody actually runs it. But it is the exception, and everybody in the trade knows it is the exception. For the rest of them, the truck stop is now competing with every other patch of pavement in America purely on the parking lot, and it is not winning. When a place is nothing but a spot to park, a driver will compare it honestly against a quiet industrial street where nobody knows he is there, and the industrial street starts winning on more nights than it loses. Once a driver starts making that comparison, the rest of this list makes his decision for him. If you have been riding along with this one, hit subscribe. This channel digs into trucking and the American highway every single week. Now, number 4. And this is the one drivers do not put in writing. Number 4. The lot after midnight. Knocking on sleeper doors at 1 in the morning. Sometimes solicitation, sometimes somebody wanting money, sometimes you never find out what it was because you do not open the curtain. Drug activity in the back rows where the light poles do not reach. People walking between the trailers who do not have a truck of their own out there. Fights on the fuel island. Women drivers describe planning entire routes around which lots they will not enter after dark. And the industry openly admits the lack of safe parking is one of the biggest reasons more women do not stay in this job. And it is not only the parking spot itself, it is the walk. A driver parked in the last row, 300 yards from the building, has to decide at 2 in the morning whether he really needs the restroom that badly or whether he can hold it until daylight. Men who spent 30 years out here have made that calculation more times than they would care to admit. Now let's be honest about this one, because it deserves it. Most nights, in most lots, absolutely nothing happens. Millions of drivers will park at a truck stop tonight and sleep perfectly fine. The reputation runs well ahead of the statistics here, and anybody who tells you every lot in America is dangerous is selling something. But a man only needs it to go wrong once. And the ones who have been out there 30 years have all either had it happen or stood next to somebody it happened to. That is why the warning keeps traveling from man to man at a fuel counter. Some of the danger in these lots, though, has nothing to do with crime at all. Number 3. The lot itself can end your career at 4 miles an hour. A crowded truck stop lot is one of the most dangerous places a professional driver operates, and criminals have nothing to do with it. 200 trucks crammed into a space designed for 150. Trailers parked at angles because the man before you did not care. Men backing 70-foot rigs into a slot between two other trailers, in the dark, after 11 hours of driving, with somebody else's mirrors 2 feet from theirs, and a fuel island line watching. Clip 1. Just one. Scratch a fender, catch a mirror, tag a bumper on a parked trailer. And that is a preventable accident on your record. It goes to the insurance company. It follows you to your next job application. Owner-operators pay for it out of their own pocket in premiums for years. And then there is the other version, where a driver comes out at 5 in the morning and finds his fairing cracked and his marker lights smashed, and whoever did it left 3 hours ago, and there is no footage, no witness, and no way on earth to prove it was not him. Now remember the man in Effingham, the one who rolled through that full lot at 2 miles an hour and pulled right back out. He was not running from thieves at that moment. He had looked at the one spot left in the back corner, wedged between two trailers parked crooked, at 9 at night after a full day, and he did that math in about 3 seconds. 20 more minutes of driving cost him 20 minutes. One clipped mirror in that corner could have cost him the next 5 years. That is what people mean when they talk about a veteran's judgment. And every one of these decisions runs against a clock that never stops. Number 2, the 14-hour clock does not care where you sleep. Federal rules give a driver a 14-hour working window each day, and once that window starts, it runs whether he is rolling, sitting at a dock, or circling a full parking lot for the 3rd time. There is no pause button. The electronic logging device on the dash counts it down in front of him all day, and it does not care about his problems. So the driver who spends an hour looking for parking does not get that hour back. He pays for it in miles, which means he pays for it in dollars, because most of these men are paid by the mile and not by the hour. Nobody has ever been paid to look for a parking space. That single rule quietly rewrites the whole day. A driver who could legally run until 8 at night will shut down at 4 instead, in a lot he does not much like, in a town he never wanted to stop in, because a guaranteed space beats a good space every time. He gives away 3 hours of paid driving to buy certainty. The alternative is worse, and federal crash data spells it out. Tens of thousands of large truck crashes every year happen on highway ramps and shoulders, where trucks ended up parked because there was nothing legal left within 100 miles. Hundreds of people die in those every year, and some of them are the drivers themselves, asleep in a bunk on a shoulder when somebody drifts. So the choice on the table at 7 in the evening is a ramp, a shoulder, an unfamiliar lot, or somewhere the driver picked out for himself hours earlier. More and more of them are picking the 4th option, and lately, they are not even the ones making the call. Number 1. The load is not allowed to sleep there anymore. Everything up to now has been the driver's own judgment. Number 1 is different because it is typed up and sitting in a binder. Carriers hauling high-value freight now issue security rules that read like military orders. No overnight parking with a loaded trailer except in a fenced, gated, monitored yard. No stopping inside the red zone after pickup. No unattended trailers. Ever, for any reason. Some shippers will not tender a load at all unless the carrier signs off on those terms in writing. And the insurance underwriters are the ones pushing from behind. After the losses of the last 2 years, cargo coverage got repriced in 2026, and the men writing those policies decided that a public truck stop parking lot is not a place where their money is going to sit overnight. So that lot, the same one where a driver's father shut down for 30 years and thought nothing of it, has been formally reclassified as a place where the freight is not permitted to rest. And the driver pays the difference out of his own pocket. A reserved spot at a major chain runs roughly $12 to $25 a night. A secured yard with a fence, a gate, and real cameras runs $400 a month and up. Owner-operators are now buying, with their own money, the security that used to come free with a fill-up. That is the real story behind the refusal. The truck stop went from being the driver's home on the road to being a liability on his load, on his insurance, and on his record. When a place becomes all risk and no reason to be there, men stop going. It is that plain. Look across all 10 of these and one thing runs through every one of them. There was no announcement. Nobody called a meeting, nobody took a vote, and no organization ever put its name on this. It happened one man at a time, in 10,000 different parking lots, each of them looking at the same 4 choices at 7 in the evening, and quietly picking the one that let him keep his record clean, and his freight where he could see it. Meanwhile, the numbers barely move. Roughly 87% of the truck parking in this country sits on private property, only about 13% at public rest areas. Federal grant programs put nearly $752 million toward truck parking between 2022 and 2026 and produced something over 2,000 new spaces, against a shortage measured in the hundreds of thousands. Congress appropriated $200 million for fiscal 2026 and set aside another $200 million for 2027. It will help. It will not fix it in this decade, and everybody involved knows it will not. So the market did what markets do. Safe parking became a product with a price on it, sold by the night and by the month. And the men who once got it free with a fill-up are the ones buying it back. The truck stop, as an institution, is not dying because drivers stopped needing a place to rest. It is dying because it stopped being the place where a driver was safest, and the drivers noticed first, the way they always do. So now you know why that lot in Effingham was full at 9, and why the man who found it full drove 20 more minutes to sleep behind a closed farm equipment dealership. The arithmetic, the theft, the clock, and the policy binder. If you drove, in the years when a truck stop meant a hot meal, a mechanic on duty, and a shower that came with your fuel, tell us in the comments which one you miss most, the name of it, and where it stood. There are men reading that comment section tonight who will remember the exact same building, and those names deserve to be said out loud while there is still somebody around to say them. And if you want the other half of this map, our video on the 10 cities American truckers are refusing in 2026 is on screen now. Keep the shiny side up, lock your trailer, and we will see you down the road.